Hello and welcome to the table, Baldurs Gate DND, and yes, Warhammer friends from both the fantasy community and Total War Warhammer community. Have a seat, grab your favorite drink, and settle in for a unique modded character build going through all 12 levels of a new subclass for the Mystic, the Order of the Awakened. Specifically, we'll be basing this build off of one of the Total War Warhammer faction leaders, Tzarina Katarin, Kislev's fearless leader. In this episode, we're going through all 12 levels of the Mystic modded class. Credits to the mod author, Zevo, I hope I pronounced your name right, friend, for putting the time and effort into bringing this class from the tabletop to the game. Something to note is that this is a lore-friendly class, as it does exist within the tabletop realm of 5th edition D&D, and the features and tenets of this class really do fit well within the world of Faerun. Now, for those just stumbling upon this channel, one of my main focuses for videos is creating unique Baldurs Gate 3 characters, utilizing mods both for enhancement and roleplay purposes, specifically giving you different types of replayability. If that's something you are really into, I would love to hear your personal favorite character builds in the comments below, and let's get a discussion going with each other on what kinds of characters you would build this class with, what you would multi-class this with, whether it's vanilla base game classes or also modded classes, other modded classes, or completely different character build requests too. Now, a side note for all of the Warhammer friends who stumbled upon this video, I do also create narrative-driven Total War Warhammer campaigns, both with modded and non-modded factions, showing and telling unique stories of each of the individual leaders. And if you love talking shop about character builds, epic story-driven war campaigns, or both, consider hitting the like, subscribe, and bell icon notifications for more unique stories and adventures like that. Also, to the new viewers who only stumbled upon this video, we will structure this character build going through the starting level first with specific choices in the race and also beginning features, levels 2 through 12, wrapping up with specific gear and equipment to complement the build in terms of roleplay or improving stats and spells, and then finishing off with an overall review and also thoughts on this modded class too. When it comes to character builds, I do mainly stick with choices in abilities, spells, and equipment that suit characters thematically or keeping in line with the modded class. However, I do sometimes slip into choosing metagame choices or min-maxing damage output. And yes, I am aware that half of the D&D and Baldurs Gate communities are more so into roleplay, the other half really want to get into the min-max and number crunching of it. But at the end of the day, just as long as you are having fun with the specific build and playstyle, that's what truly matters in the end. Now, the reason I want to go through all 12 levels as the class alone is just showcasing everything there is to offer, and it's a personal thank you to the mod author. Also, of course, as an added thank you, I'll leave the link to the mod in the pinned comment below, along with a few other mods that I use to complement the character build, and, well, mods that really paired well with the modded class and just synergize well too. We also will, of course, be saving separate videos for multi-classing the modded classes together or with base game classes, just trying to see what types of unique synergies and combinations that we can come up with. I have a gut feeling that this would really pair well with my Circle of the Storm Chasers Druid class mod showcase too. If you want to check out that video, I'll leave a link in the comments below too. Now, before we get into the specific nitty-gritty details of the character build, we should have a quick lore overview of Tzarina Katarin for those interested in the backstory, and also as a refresher for newer Warhammer Fantasy fans. And yes, Warhammer Fantasy lore aficionados, please let me know in the comments if I miss important details, especially because we do want to keep the level up and spell choices as close as possible to Tzarina Katarin's character. And yes, I know technically in Total War Warhammer, she is primarily an ice wizard with the lore of ice spells, only. However, some of the features and traits, while they may be different, we will try our best to keep in line with her character and providing some sort of justification. I will say that she should be competent in other forms of magic, maybe not a master in them, but competent. Now, according to her lore from the Total War Warhammer wiki, Katarin Balka, also called the Ice Queen, is the current Tzarina of Kislev and is known as one of the most powerful ice witches to have ever lived. From the icy fastness of her capital city of Kislev, the Tzarina rules her frigid land with an aloof majesty. The daughter of the fiery and charismatic Tsar Boris Balka, she ascended the throne of Kislev in 2517 IC. She is the latest in a long line of Tzarinas descended from the ancient Khan queens of the Gospodars, the powerful tribal group of the eastern steppes that migrated west centuries ago and became the dominant people of what is to grow into the great nation of Kislev. A great wizard in her own right, Katarin's power is said to come from the land of Kislev itself, its icy soul and bleak tundra giving her command of the elements and mastery of that form of wizardry known as ice magic. Indeed, some whisper she is in fact the living reincarnation of the very first Khan queen, Miska. So complete is her grasp of this dangerous branch of magic. So with this build, we will be, of course, utilizing ice magic, devastating the battlefield, and being more so in line with a traditional caster-based character. And also the Mystic class does use points similar to sorcery, so you'll also have some weapon proficiencies too should you find yourself in close quarters combat. Now, without further ado, let's get into the first level of the build. At starting level, even though Katarin's race is a basic human, one of the mods we are using adds different types of race passives, and also basically this is the in-game version of the variant human from D&D tabletop. We can choose a total of 3 passives, just providing a whole bunch of different types of character builds, which we can go through in the future. But to keep in line with Katarin's character, I decided to go with Elemental Adept Cold. Spells you cast ignore resistance to cold damage. In addition, when you deal cold damage with a spell, you cannot roll a 1. So I really like the ignore resistance to cold damage, as it means that all of our ice spells that we cast as Katarin, it's going to damage no matter what, and we're not going to be hindered in any way whatsoever. I also decided to choose Rally, expend a superiority die to grant an ally 8 temporary hit points, bolstering their resolve. This is definitely a leadership thing for Katarin, and we can see in the trailers for Total War Warhammer that she is leading from the front line. Even though she is kind of a squishy caster, she can definitely hold her own and also inspire troops around her. So Rally is going to definitely be one of our passives, and also to help us out in the middle of battle too, I decided to choose Evasion. Agility lets you to dodge out of the way of certain spells. When a spell or effect would deal half damage on a successful Dex saving throw, it deals no damage if you succeed, and only half damage if you fail. So this is kind of like our little get out of jail free card, and our way to counter other casters on the battlefield too. As for the specific subclass of the Mystic, this video we're going to go through Order of the Awakened, seeking to transcend their physical form, unlocking the full potential of the mind. So this is going to focus a little bit more on psychic spells and casting, providing some buffs as well to our physical capabilities and martial prowess in combat. For the cantrips, I decided to go with Mind Slam, which is a very useful one, knocking enemy creatures prone, and basically having them lie on their ass means that it provides more ample opportunities for us and our allies to actually hit them and land some blows in combat. Psychic Hammer, push or pull a creature 3 meters while also dealing force damage. It's going to be useful for us in case we do need to use our close quarters weapon and ice swords. Class passives, of course we're going to go with Mastery of Ice. This provides us resistance to cold damage, becoming unable to fall prone on ice surfaces. Ice Spike as our first level 1d8 damage spell. Hurl a sharp chunk of ice, reducing the target's movement speed by 4.5 meters. Ice Sheet. Condense and freeze the air in an area, creating an ice surface. This is going to be a really good battlefield control spell, as it also will make it so that enemies will fall prone. Frozen Sanctuary. Unsheath yourself in Icy Resilience, gaining 20 temporary hit points. This is a good little buff spell. Frozen Rain, 6 to 36 damage, which is pretty massive too. Create an area filled with deathly cold and saturated moisture, reducing the movement speed of creatures within to 0. Each turn, creatures affected make a strength saving throw to attempt to free themselves. And last but definitely not least, Ice Barrier, 20 to 120 cold damage. Raise a wall of solid ice that deals 10 to 60 cold damage to anyone standing in its way. Now, that's pretty massive there too, and also they do need to succeed on a dex save. I'm pretty sure the 120 damage scales as you level up. When the ice is broken, it leaves behind a cloud of frigid air that deals 10 to 60 cold damage. I guess that's where the 120 comes in too, per turn to creatures within. All pretty powerful ice abilities here, but bear in mind too that the stronger or more potent abilities that you decide to do will cost you even more psi points. We also get some extra class passives as well. I decided to go with Precognition, analyzing information around you from subtle hints to seemingly disconnected facts. You learn to weave a string of probabilities in an instant that gives you extraordinary insights. So we gain a 1d4 plus 2 ability checks, attack rolls, and saving throws all around sight. As a reaction, impose disadvantage on an incoming attack. Danger Sense. Create a psychic model of reality and peer into its future, gaining a plus 10 bonus to initiative, preventing you from being surprised. All very useful planning ahead abilities too. Victory before battle. Impart knowledge of the future to up to 6 creatures, giving them plus 10 to initiative the next time they start combat. So this is all going to be useful things before actually entering the fray. I also decided to go with Telepathic Subjugation. Broken Will. Shatter a creature's will, forcing them to fall prone and do nothing for a turn. Psionic Grip. Hold a humanoid enemy still. Can't move, act, or react. Attacks from within 3 meters are always critical hits. Psychic Grasp. Paralyze a creature. It can't move, act, or react. Attacks from within 3 meters are always critical hits. Very similar to this one. Psionic Domination. Make a humanoid fight alongside you. This is a little bit more so in line with like a Slanesh build, but hey, it's definitely something that we can justify as like Katarin having that charisma in her spellcasting ability. Every time the creature takes damage, it makes an intelligence saving throw against your domination. Allies can't be dominated. As for the background, I decided to go with Acolyte. Or you can even go with Noble too. Noble is probably the more in line one with her character, because she was raised as a social elite and is the daughter of the former king of Kislev too. With the ability point allocation, go with Intelligence, as it is your casting modifier and your spells and abilities rely solely on it. Constitution will be the second highest one to provide us with as much health as possible. Dexterity, put the remaining points in there and leave Wisdom and Charisma unchecked too. As for the skill proficiencies, Arcana you'll have a very strong +5. History, very much a +5, and very strong and respectable as well. These are definitely in line with Katarin's roleplay and also background too, with being knowledgeable on Kislev's history. Investigation is going to be very useful too with analyzing clues and people. Insight, respectable +2 with your wisdom checks. Intimidation, Katarin is a pretty intimidating ruler, but not insanely scary, so a good +2, and persuasion at a respectable +2 as well. At second level, we gain telepathy, being able to read the thoughts of others, and also mystical recovery. After spending psi points, you can spend a bonus action to regain hit points equal to 1 plus your mystic level. At third level, we gain the action of psionic investigation, increasing investigation, insight, and history checks by 10. The cantrip choice I would choose here is Blind Spot. You could justify it as having Misty Ice or Icy Mist to obscure creatures' vision. It's definitely something Katarin would use to control the battlefield with. Psi limit is also increased by 3 points. As for the passives here, since Katarin is a very capable frontline commander and also of course the leader of Kislev, I decided to go with Mantle of Command. With Mantle of Command, we gain coordinated movement, signal up to 5 allies to move as a unit, increasing movement speed by 4.5, reveal creatures' weaknesses, giving advantage to attack rolls against it, command to strike, direct an ally to strike a foe, they can make an additional weapon attack on their next turn, very useful for frontline fighters like Lae'zel and Karlach. Strategic Mind, exert an aura of trust and command, uniting your allies to move as a cohesive unit. Nearby allies can dash or disengage as a bonus action, or add 1d4 plus 1d4 to each attack roll during their turn. Overwhelming attack, for your full party onslaught, direct up to 5 allies to strike a foe. They can make an additional weapon attack on their next turn, and like I said before, bear in mind, the more potent and powerful command you decide to choose, it's going to cost you more psychic points. At level 3, we gain the action of Strength of Mind, gain proficiency in a saving throw of your choice. As for the feat, I would personally choose Ability Improvement, adding a +1 to Intelligence and Constitution, Constitution now becoming 16 and a +3, Intelligence being a very strong +4 in the early game, and at a very high number of 18. At level 5, our psionic points increase by 5, and also for the class passive, I decided to go with Restoration, so going more of a healing route, and also if Katarin could, I have a feeling she definitely would have a Lore of Life and some kind of support spells as well to help her troops out on the battlefield. We gain Mend Wounds, dealing 1d8 healing, heal a creature you can touch, restore health, cure a creature from disease, poison, paralysis, or blindness, restore life, hopefully you don't need to use this one often, revive a companion from death, return to life with 1 hit point, restore vigor is very powerful for the last one, touch a creature and negate any charm, petrification, stun, or curse affecting it. Also when casting a psionic healing psionic discipline, the target regains additional 2 hit points, so already in line with, or even potentially rivaling traditional heal builds. At 6th level, we gain the subclass specific feature of Psionic Surge. As a reaction, impose disadvantage on a creature's saving throw, usable once per short or long rest. At level 7, we gain 6 additional psi points. For the class passive, I would personally choose Mastery of Weather, and yes, I know it's a bit of a stretch, it's not technically ice-based, but at the same time, it is kind of in line with Katarin's meta and also her shtick as well, using the elements of Kislev to devastate her enemies and defending her allies. Hungry Lightning, dealing 1d8 lightning damage. Lash Out with Tendrils of Lightning, has advantage on creatures wearing metal armor. Wall of Clouds, blocking vision of enemies. Whirlwind, dealing a 1d6 bludgeoning damage. Create a vortex of howling winds, pulling creatures towards its center. Lightning Leap for a whopping 6 to 36 damage. Surge forward with a flash of lightning, shocking everything along your path. Wall of Thunder, dealing 6 to 36 damage. Create a wall of raging thunderclouds. Creatures moving through the clouds have their movement speed halved. Clouds damage any creature that tried to remain inside. And the final one being Thunderclap. Massive thunderous energy erupts in a targeted area, stunning all creatures inside for 2 turns. At level 8, we gain the class feature of Psionic Strike. After we deal a weapon attack, we can dish out additional 1 to 8 psychic damage with our weapon too. It's more so useful for traditional martial weapons, but it can stack with our staff as well. But also I'll provide an alternative to the staff that we'll be using, but that's a little bit later on in the video. Speaking of spells, I personally like choosing Meta Magic Adept for the feat here, which allows us to learn some passives from the sorcery skill line. We also gain 2 sorcery points to spend on the Meta Magic passives as well. Personally for me, I like using Subtle Spell. Can cast spells while silenced. This is a good way to shut down enemy casters who think they shut us down. So it's like a reverse Uno card to the reverse Uno card. Meta Magic Twin Spell. This is useful for crowd control. Spells that only target one creature can now target an additional creature. At level 9, we gain an additional 7 psi points for the class passive. I like using Celerity, which gains us Rapid Step, Quicken Steps, increasing movement speed by 3 meters. Agile Defense, improve reflexes, gaining advantage on dex saving throws, imposing disadvantage on incoming attacks. Blur of Motion, obscure your own movements, becoming invisible until the end of your turn. It's a little bit out of line with Katarin, but this is kind of like our escape sort of ability here. You could justify it as saying that you cloud yourself in an ice mist and disappear off the battlefield momentarily. Surge of Speed, hasten your steps, gaining the effects of the disengage action. And personally, my favorite one out of this, Surge of Action. Again, going on with my whole little rant about action economy and being able to perform as many actions as possible with your character builds is a huge thing for me. Gain a surge of energy, granting you an additional action this turn. At level 10, we gain the action of Consumptive Power. Tap into your own life force, regaining 7 psi points, reducing your max hit points by 14. Little risk reward there too. If you really want to cast more damaging abilities and spells, you'll need to take a little bit of health away from yourself. And also, with the cantrip here, choose whichever one you want, but I personally would pick Blade Meld, allowing our staff or your sword to become one with your hand and preventing you from being disarmed by other pesky enemy combatants who have some finesse abilities. At level 11, we gain the class feature of Psionic Mastery, allowing us to cast a Psionic Discipline as a free action. Again, the action economy bonus here, and without spending any psi points. Expends a Psionic Mastery charge though, and can be used once per turn. And finally, at level 12, we're going to round out with choosing passives and also a feat that will hopefully make us more durable in battle. We're going to go with Iron Durability, which provides us with Iron Hide. As a reaction, when you are hit by an attack, you can harden your skin, increasing your AC by 3 until the end of your turn. Steel Hide, fortifying your body, gaining resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage until the end of your next turn. Iron Resistance, gain resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage for the duration of combat. And also increasing our armor class by 1. This is going to be very useful for us because we are going to be having gear that is mainly in line with a squishy caster. And also, for the feat here, I know it doesn't seem like much, but Tough increases our HP by 2 for every level we've gained retroactively, putting us up to above 100, which every single point above 100, it's going to be very useful. 91, it's pretty squishy there at this high level. We're not really like the most amount of health that we can get, but at the same time, it's helping out with survivability. Alright friends, for the gear and equipment and weapon, I will admit I am using a mod pack from the Nexus called the Frigid Adept gear set, all relying and focused on cold damage, because I really just want to lean into the cold damage aspect of this character build and to really maximize it to its full potential too. So this legendary gear set will do just that for us. For the headpiece, we have the Frigid Adept hat, providing frigid advantage, granting you advantage on attack rolls against chilled creatures, arcane enchantment, +2 bonus to spell save DC and spell attack rolls. We also gain the Wall of Ice evocation spell, very similar to one of our other abilities from the Mystic class. We also gain the Cloak of Frigid Adept. Whenever a creature deals damage to the wearer, the creature takes 3 to 12 cold damage and creates a surface of ice beneath you. Adroit Caster. Cantrips targeting foes and allies can target an additional creature. Same target can be chosen twice. It's going to stack up pretty well with our meta magic ability from the sorcery skill line. We also gain Ice Storm, dealing 10 to 60 damage. Impel a storm of hail and ice to crash from the sky, covering the ground and striking all objects and creatures within range for 2 turns. Now the main armor piece here, Frigid Adept Robe. Now it's only 10 armor class for a robe, but also I think it's well worth it for the abilities here. When the wearer deals cold damage, it deals an additional 6 cold damage, small amount, but every damage point counts when stacked up. Magic armor. The AC of this armor is based on your armor proficiency, dex, and level. If you have a medium armor or heavy armor proficiency, you gain +2 to AC. AC increases at levels 4, 7, and 10. Armor of Vorgal is going to be a pretty useful spell too. 30 temporary hit points and deal 30 cold damage to any creature that hits you with a melee attack. It's a good reflection ability there too, and 30 temporary hit points. It's gonna really help us out as a squishy caster. Now for the gloves. Whenever you deal cold damage, target needs to succeed a Constitution saving throw or become chilled for 3 turns. As a reminder, the chilled condition makes enemies vulnerable to more cold damage and resistant to fire damage. Quick spell fingers. Cantrips that cost an action cost a bonus action instead. This effect can be used once per short rest. We also gain Cone of Cold, dealing 9 to 72 damage. Make a flurry of frost. Crisp air and condensed snow crystals erupt from your hands. It's a good little spell in case you find yourself stacked up in the front lines with enemies, and also it punishes their positioning too. Frigid Adept Boots. Whenever you deal cold damage, gain Frigid Acuity for 2 turns. And also with Frigid Acuity, affected entity has a +1 bonus to attack rolls and spell difficulty class per turn remaining. Icy Step, it's the complete opposite of that Hell Step pair of shoes. Teleport to an area and deal 3 to 12 cold damage where you land. The impact blast spreads in a 3-meter zone. And yes, this is a bonus action too. So this is essentially our way of entering the battlefield. As for the specific jewelry, Frigid Adept Amulet provides frigid healing. Whenever you deal cold damage, heal yourself 3d4 hit points. This is a good little self-sustain ability here. We also gain the Frigid Missile. It's basically just a cold version of Magic Missile. Always hitting our target, not needing to worry about missing. Frigid Explosion. Whenever you deal cold damage, you create an explosion of icy surface around the target. And yes, we gain Frigid Eldritch Blast, basically Icy Eldritch Blast. And also Frigid Adept Ring. Ignore resistance and immunity to cold damage. In addition, when you deal cold damage, you cannot roll a 1. And also we gain Frigid Bolt, another type of cantrip dealing 3 to 30 damage. Overall, this really brings out as much amount of cold damage and also cold effects as possible. Now, the melee weapon of choice here, you could really go either way. If you wanted to go the traditional Tzarina Katarin route, Frost Reaper from Blades of the Fallen Prince is a good one to have, but also you'll want to gain the other Frost Blade in order to get the full benefits of each. But also, for roleplay purposes, Katarin only uses one sword in combat in Total War Warhammer. But with Frozen Heart, attacks from this weapon ignores cold damage, resistance, and inflicts chilled for 2 turns. When targeting a chilled opponent, your attacks gain advantage, and the requirement for a critical hit on your attack rolls is reduced by 1 when you have both Blades of the Fallen Prince. Each of these weapons additionally decreases critical hit attack roll requirement by 1. Upon successfully hitting your target, main hand weapon regenerates 1 bonus action. The offhand weapon regenerates a level 1 spell slot. But if we want to really just lean into the caster route, the Frigid Adept Staff provides Frigid Cold buildup. When creatures are hit with cold damage while already chilled, target needs to succeed a Constitution saving throw or become frozen for 2 turns. Magical Cold Weapon. This magical cold weapon grows more powerful as its wielder gains experience. Stats increase levels 3, 5, and 7. And also we gain Arcane Battery. Alleviate the arcane burden of spellcasting with the power of the staff. The next spell you cast doesn't cost a spell slot. We also gain Weapon Enchantment +3, Frigid Ray cantrip as well. Hurl 8 rays of cold, each ray dealing a 2 to 12 damage. Alright friends, that is my build for Tzarina Katarin. Let me know, Warhammer and D&D aficionados, if you really like this character concept, and also if you like specifically the Mystic subclass that I showcased too. I know I mostly leaned into the ice-based damage and also the cold theme as well, but also I hope that you find this build to be an interesting one that you would consider using or tweaking for yourself, especially during the holidays. And also to all the new and returning viewers, thank you so much if you've made it this far into the video. I do plan to release more videos on the Mystic subclasses, wrapping those up, but then at the same time subclassing and multi-classing these as well. And also for those who are new here, if you want to see more character build videos for Baldurs Gate, D&D and Elder Scrolls lore videos, or narrative-driven Total War campaigns, I'd love to have you join us on those adventures, friends. And I'll save you a seat at the table. Take care and farewell.